Welcome back. I'm talking to filmmaker Bill Maloney, who has been exposing institutional child abuse. We were talking about your film Sun, Sea and Satan, and about the mysterious death of your sister, who was financing the film. Now, the next film, was that the Medimsley Heroes film? Or?
Yeah, Adam Rickwood and the Medimsley Heroes.
Now, Adam Rickwood is someone who died in like a young offenders home.
Yeah.
Well, and he was supposed to have hung himself, but none of his family believed that he hung himself, and there seems to be the security camera wasn't working that would have overseen that, etc., etc. So
exactly.
There seems to be suspicion over.
Well, I'll just give you a short synopsis of it.
Yeah.
Adam Rickwood was found hanging in his cell. He had a broken nose and he had a broken wrist in a young offenders institution called Hassockfield. But Hassockfield was originally Medimsley.
Right.
So what we done, Medimsley, when it was Medimsley, and we're going back quite a way now, you know, going back to like 60s, 70s, 80s. When it was Medimsley, the guys who were there are now around about my age, or sort of 10 years younger than me, so they're sort of 47s and 45s. And there was a paedophile called Neville Husband, and he was in charge of the kitchens, and he was raping the young offenders. There was also the governor at the time, his name was James Miller Reid. When the investigation into Medimsley started, James Miller Reid was found dead in Canterbury. Don't know how he died, he was found dead. And the Governor General of prisons and at the time, prisons and young offenders institutions was Martin Neri. Martin Neri, after that, became the head of Dr. Bernardo's, and he's recently retired. Strangely, he retired after Adam Rickwood and the Medimsley Heroes came out.
So you think he was kind of moved to the side?
Absolutely.
And these other two guys who were involved in the abuse directly died?
Yes.
You don't know how?
Yes. Well, Neville Husband died about 3 or 4 months after he was released from prison, and they were taking the kids, the young offenders, they were taking them out of the young offenders.
So your film that exposed all of this, right, okay, has obviously created waves, we'll put it that way, putting the truth out about what's happened. Now, did that get mentioned in Parliament by David Cameron?
Yeah, but it did.
Now, for me,
it wasn't the film, because what it was a member of Parliament who saw the film, Adam Rickwood. I just want to reiterate, Adam Rickwood, he was in Hassockfield, which was originally Medimsley. So Adam Rickwood brings it up to date and tells us that it is still going on now.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah.
And what was David Cameron's comment on the film?
David Cameron, I don't know whether David Cameron's seen the film, but there was a member of Parliament who had seen the film, and he asked the question to David Cameron, what are we doing about the Medimsley guys?
Now.
Now. Because they sued the Home Office now. £3 million was allocated to the Medimsley case. There was 12 victims of Medimsley that had come forward at the time. Out of that £3 million, £500,000 went to the victims. They wound up with between 50 and 40 grand each, right? But the institution took 2.5, took 2.5 million of the 3 million.
Right.
So their solicitor, the Medimsley Heroes solicitor, his name is David Greenwood, and it was 2 weeks ago. There was a major article in the national papers, I believe it was in the Daily Mail, the Mail on Sunday, saying that he has been trawling for victims, and he's been representing them, and he has made his company. They're called what's the name of the company? I forget the name of the solicitors, but anyway, that he works for. But David Greenwood, they have had millions and millions out of these guys, and now I believe that these guys are trying to take legal action to get some of that money back. But more victims have come forward, you know, so...
So, did Cameron, what was, because I haven't seen that actual comment.
Right, well, so what it was David Cameron, he was sitting, before he was Prime Minister, he sat on the select committee that decided what Cameron, what compensation and how the guys were going to be treated in the courts. And at the time, when he was on the select committee, Jack Straw was the Home Secretary. Now, Jack Straw also pushed it through about 2 or 3 years ago that any child in the care system is not that has been abused is not allowed to put that information into the public domain to protect the child. Right. He says, Jack Straw. But Jack Straw was given the job of overhauling the sex offenders register when his own brother William was on it for 2 counts. Yeah. And one of them was a 14-year-old girl and violence was involved. Right. Now, all he got was a £250 fine and £750 court costs. So he had, as far as I'm concerned, an interest because his own brother was on it. Right. Yeah. And you know, then we could go back to the Islington inquiry, all the different people that were living in Islington, etc. You know.
Okay, all right. Well, let's just try and broaden this a little bit, because it's not really something that I know a great deal about this issue. But in terms of let's say history, like throughout history, going back hundreds, even thousands of years. Yeah. Is that anything that you've looked into? Is this something which is throughout history? Would you?
Well, you see, pedophiles. There are a lot of pedophiles. You know, I was told, I was given some information by a police detective, and then I looked it up and I found it on other blogs and other websites that apparently 1 person in 4 has a paedophilic tendency.
Okay, well that's.
But you've also got the one person in 4 has a paedophilic tendency. Now, they don't all put that into operation. They don't all do it. Some of them like control it. But one thing I would like to say is there is no cure for paedophilia at this moment in time.
Now, what about other countries? Is it just rife throughout every culture in the world?
Every single country. You will not find anywhere on this planet where paedophilia is not very, very strong.
But so then you would take from that then it's something inherent in the human makeup then, would you say?
Well, we were told, there was information about 5 years ago that came out, you know, when they started looking into the genetics, that it was genetic.
Right. Now,
we could find that gene.
Yeah, okay.
But now, that quietened down, so we stopped hearing about that, that it was genetic.
Because it's, when you look at that Medimsley hero films, and all of the other sort of homes where this abuse sort of crops up, to me, it's almost like you've got a patio outside, and if you leave it alone, you're going to get a weed there and a weed there and a weed there, and the weeds are going to start popping up if you don't control it. It's almost like that with this, that I feel it's so sort of across the board. Yeah, you know that it will, anywhere where there's children that isn't properly checked and policed, they'll crop up there.
Yeah.
Which is.
But the point is, with the kids that have been abused, especially in institutional paedophilia, you know, like incestuous paedophilia is completely different. Right. But you still have Stockholm's syndrome. You know, Stockholm syndrome is where the victim believes that the perpetrator is a good friend. Now you get Stockholm syndrome in all kind of paedophilia. You know, whether it's incestuous, institutional, or just guys on the street. They might, you know, they procure.
No. I interviewed a chap called Neil Sanders, who studies mind control and perception management and this kind of thing. We spoke about the Jimmy Savile case, and he was suggesting, and you know, he may well be right, that the whole phenomenon. So take Jimmy Savile. He was never exposed, but so presumably someone was protecting him.
Jimmy Savile was exposed when he died.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's what they waited until he died.
But he suggests that the intelligence agencies are the ones who are ultimately controlling some of these care homes and institutions.
Absolutely.
Because they have the power to prevent the police from doing a proper investigation, and B, make sure that things don't get into the media. And he suggests, and others have suggested, that they're used as blackmail traps for powerful people.
That's what I was just going to say.
Or money, or just snuff films and that kind of thing.
Yes.
So let's assume then that it does go right to the power at the top.
Paedophilia can control world politics.
Exactly.
World politics. Now, let me give you an example, right? If you look at Haute de la Garenne, right? Jimmy Savile. Now, Haute de la Garenne, what they do. But first of all, I've got to tell you that Jimmy Savile was often present at cabinet meetings in Israel. He was asked to go out there and sit in on cabinet meetings, Jimmy Savile. God knows why. But
I'm just trying to get to because it's the crux. Do you know what I mean?
You're a politician. You're a politician, right?
Yeah, I understand.
I'm Jimmy Savile.
Yeah.
I'll say, Rich, you want a kid?
Yeah.
Come over to Jersey. It's a pucker place. We've got some beautiful kids. You can do what you want.
Yeah.
Come on, it's going to cost you this, it's going to cost you that, it's going to cost you a little favour. You go, all right, Jim, that's great. Yeah. You go over there, but you don't know when you're having sex with a child, or you're abusing a child, or you're torturing a child, or you're killing a child, whether you've got a baby there and you want to bite it to death.
Yeah.
Then
it's filmed without
it's filmed. You get home, DVD, or then would have been the VHS copy, comes in the post, so you see it, you're the politician, and then we say to you, we've got this on you, look at this film, then you'll come back and say, what do you want?
So in essence then, it's something which is, these grotesque acts that people do, that's something which is kind of somehow, for whatever reason, ingrained in certain people.
Yeah.
And the intelligence agencies, because the CIA have been involved in this kind of activity, actually training 9-year-old girls in how to pleasure men, and I think that's been admitted to, right? So they're using something which is there to as a power tool, effectively.
Yeah. Now, I would say all the intelligence agencies, all the secret services around the world, every single country, the best thing that you can have really is, if you call someone a paedophile, and you can prove that they're a paedophile and they're a politician or whatever, you have then got them by the short and curlies, and they will do whatever you want.
Right. So Jimmy Saville was just an agent of that system then. He wasn't a lone person who was using his own power and influence just to interfere with young girls and boys. It goes a lot further than that. He's protected by a web which goes to the very top.
Yeah. Well, Jimmy Saville, he was interested in children in care because they're institutionalised, and a lot of them, if they didn't have any parents, you think if you were an orphan, and like I was in orphanages, and if you want to abuse a child, you can do it. Jimmy Saville was in charge of so much, it was untrue. And I believe, and I've said this many times, that I believe that Jimmy Saville and Peter Sutcliffe had a very strong relationship, long before Peter Sutcliffe was ever arrested.
Right. Yeah, I mean, we touched on that in a previous interview. Now, I just want to touch on Freemasonry as well, because a lot of people who end up getting involved in this kind of stuff are, well, for example, I've got a document here, which this article, well, I might bleep that out, right? I might not name him, but there was an article written in a particular magazine in the 1990s which lists quite a few very powerful people, and apparently the intelligence agencies came down on this magazine for publishing this, okay? Even though they had one of the victims, Mr. X, I think it was called, had written an affidavit saying that a certain person had abused him.
The Crays were giving children to Edward Heath, who was our Prime Minister, and that has been proved. And even the national papers have put that in.
Right, but in this article, it lists 6 police officers, some of them detectives, who were known to be Freemasons, who were the ones who were not prosecuting anyone involved in this particular ring. Yeah. Okay, so. Have you looked at Freemasonry at all, and is that something that you try and
I'm interested.
Expose?
I'm interested in looking at
because that's one of the networks that they undoubtedly are using.
Well, I'll tell you, after I won my first award for a film, right, that was a short film. I started getting offers to become a Freemason by people who knew me that had never disclosed that they were Freemasons. When I became a filmmaker and I won a couple of awards, well, it was after the first award, I started getting messages, come and join our lodge, Bill, we can help you, Bill.
So they're trying to take control of you?
Yeah, they were trying to take control of me, and they still are to a degree because of the way I put things across.
Yeah, I'm sure they are. And just to touch on the Freemasonry thing again, I know someone who, his name I will not say on camera, because someone told me this in confidence, in relation to the Holly Gregg case, okay, which we haven't got time to go into today, but this is an alleged child abuse case of a Down syndrome girl, and there's a lot of politics over that particular case. Okay, I don't want to go into an individual case, but what this guy said, and this guy's a household name, right? He said he was asked if he would look at the Holly Gregg case and basically try and put out information regarding it to get justice for Holly. That was the name of the. He said, I'm not going to touch that case because that is a Masonic conspiracy.
Yeah.
So he wouldn't go near it because it was a Masonic conspiracy.
Yeah.
So that led me to believe, well, does that mean he's a Freemason?
Mm-hmm.
And are Freemasons, how much of it is controlled by the Freemason hierarchy, do you think? Do you think how much
institutionally, the Freemasons have to be involved. They have to okay certain things, otherwise you're out. Mm-hmm. It is the power. It is the power at the top of the pyramid that allows certain things. I was told by someone who's, I think I was talking to David Icke actually, and he said to me that the Masonic involvement in child abuse. You cannot take child abuse out of Freemasonry because you'd have a lot of them are in it just for that. You know what I mean?
Okay. Now,
and we're talking about big rings. Yeah. We're talking about parties. You know what I mean? Serious parties where they're getting children of 9 years of age. They're giving. So you're a young boy and you're 9 years of age and you can't get an erection at the party because you're nervous. They say take that. They give you a Viagra. Yeah. Right. Then they will make kids have sex in front of each other, boys and girls, boys and boys, whatever. And you know,
let's just
the horrors
come on to
never come out.
How you want to tackle this. Someone rang me up after this Jimmy Saville thing came out, right? It was a woman who was absolutely fuming. She was saying, Richard, what can we do? What can we do? What can we do? And I said to her, well, the affidavit that's mentioned in this article is what's needed. You need the victims to come out and name who they've been abused by, and sign an affidavit, because without that you've got nothing to go on. You've just got, a lot of it is rumour. Okay, so
it's got to go into a court of law at some point. But can I just say that 90% of all victims that make claims never get their day in court. It's always settled out of court.
Yeah.
And they are put under pressure and duress by their solicitors, because I have first-hand experience in this with Richard Hall, similar name to you, who is in one of the victims in Adam Rickwood and the Medhamsley Heroes. When he said to his solicitor, he said, I want to go into court. I don't want to accept £40,000 because I said to Richard Hall, I said, that is like giving you a gun, because he's abusing himself with like anything he can get, drugs, alcohol, etc. So with, it's...
They want to actually have their day in court and have the person brought to justice.
Yeah, but the solicitors don't want them. And this solicitor, David Greenwood, even told his clients, and he had hundreds of them from different institutions, I think 58 different institutions, this firm, Jordan's, the solicitors are called. They have dealt with 58 different institutions. Some of these institutions have 100 people coming forward. David Greenwood gave instructions to all the victims, don't talk to the police.
Right.
That's a bit strange.
Yeah.
So the solicitor either didn't trust the police, or the police didn't trust the solicitor.
Yeah. So other than victims coming forward and giving affidavits, being brave enough to stand up and either go on camera or give it an affidavit and press charges, what you're proposing in your latest film, which I'll just give the name of, it's Bill Maloney shouts amnesty for pedophiles who expose the rings they work for, and that's coming out, well, it's out now. You can watch that from Bill's website. So what you're wanting to do, and I would imagine this is controversial, Bill, but I can see the logic in how it would work. What Bill's saying is that if a pedophile who's involved and has committed crime, i.e. paedophilic crime, comes forward and names everyone else in that ring, that first person will get protection and will not get prosecuted, and then they catch everyone else in the ring.
Absolutely.
So and just explain, I mean, I've explained it there, but...
it's the paedophile rings, obviously, you can have 100 people, 200 people, a whole institution, out of institutions, and if you do that, the one person that's going to come forward and expose, because it's coming on you and you're going to get it. We are really seriously, we are coming to get you proper, and we're going to get the tariffs going up, the punishments are going to be longer. It will cause mayhem amongst paedophile rings. I know you get solitary paedophiles that work alone, but if we could do this, then who knows what names will come forward, because paedophiles are cowards. They are cowards. And if they find out, supposing you're a paedophile and you've been, say, you might be, you could have been involved with a young child with a small group at a party, and a child could die from injuries caused to it by, or whatever, you know? So that is going to terrify you for the rest of your life, the crimes. Right. Now, if you have that chance to go to the police and say, I was working with X, Y, Z, this happened, that happened, you push forward the evidence, these people become arrested, that paedophile should be given amnesty, though he should still be watched.
Right, okay. I can see
give him a new identity, but still monitor him very closely.
I can certainly see how that might work, but who would have the authority to put, because what you're saying is you're going to let one of them free.
Yeah.
Who would have the authority to do that?
The people.
Right.
The people of the country. That's what you should all be doing. You should all be pushing for this, so that if a paedophile exposes a ring that he or she has been working with, that they get amnesty. And we might have to allow a few paedophiles to get off, though we will still monitor them, but imagine what they will disclose, how many people they could disclose, and that is the way that we will get to the top people, to like whether they're royalty, whether they're politicians, whether they're involved in the army, but senior people will then be caught, because they're the ones that are continuing it, and that is why they are being protected, especially in Freemasonry.
This is the thing, Bill, if we're correct that the intelligence agencies are involved in these blackmail traps, etc. And that who do the intelligence agencies ultimately protect?
It's look,
the Queen.
If someone else can come up with a better idea, I'm all for it. But it's like, from where I come from, the street, we're looking for grasses. And that's what they are. We want a grass. We want the grasses to come forward, because the police would cease to function if they never had informers.
What I'm saying, Bill, is if the extent of the pyramid rather than the ring it is revealed, then the system will fall.
Exactly, but that's the only way
you're talking about a kind of a revolution almost.
A revolution against paedophilia.
Getting rid of the shit that's infested in our establishment.
We cannot continue to allow the child abuse to happen as it is. It is outrageous and it is evil. There's no two ways about it. And the children are the future keepers of the planet. Now, these kids that are being abused, they wind up dysfunctional.
It ruins their lives.
It ruins their lives and their talents. You know, there's so many talented people, and suicide is predominant amongst victims of child abuse. They are just killing themselves left, right and centre.
Right. All right, and Bill, well, thanks for inviting me down to London, and good luck with the film that you've just produced and future ventures. But thanks very much.
And you, thank you very much, Rich, and good luck with what you're doing.
All right.
I want to talk to you about the aliens now.
Right. Believe none of what you hear and only half of what you see. I'm Richard D. Hall. Good night.